already serving as the chair. Thank
Yes.
you. So can you share your views on public education system? What is the state's role in funding and regulating public education, and how do charter schools fit or not fit into those educational options?
Sure. As a county commissioner, the state really doesn't fund the public school system any further than after whatever property tax does not take care of. There's a formula that they use to share with the public education system. I think that they do a very good job, along with the county and the property tax formulas, that they do a very good job financing the public school systems. I am, as far as the charter schools go, there is a place for them, I believe, but I don't know so much if it's a place in South Dakota, because I think that, especially Yankton County and the Yankton school districts here, I've heard no complaints about anything going on with the school systems here. So I think that, there's a lot of noise out there that people are not happy with the education system that they're getting throughout the state. So I can't speak for other areas, but Yankton County Schools is doing a very good job. I've got 3 very studious kids to back that up. So, and I'd like to commend our Yankton School District on taking them through the process.
So in the previous legislative session, there were bills that approved changes to sales tax rates and giving voters the option to implement some localized options. What are your views on the current sales tax options?
Not very pleased with what they come out of here with on the sales tax side. I think that there was a lot of talk previously about property taxes needing to be reduced. So with the sales tax, three laws that they passed at this session, they basically tried to fix property taxes with another tax. So in my mind, that's shifting taxes. The SB 96, which gives the counties an opportunity to charge a 0.5% sales tax. I don't really understand how or why they did that, because it's not fair to a lot of counties in the state of South Dakota. Yankton County can take advantage of it, and I think that we would pass that. But it's not, you got Hutchinson County right next door to us. You got Bonham County right next door to us. Those people are going to pay taxes, the property taxes, for people owner occupied in Yankton County. So I really don't feel comfortable with especially a tax that's not fair to every constituent in the state of South Dakota. The other 0.03% tax that is on the sales tax that's going to sunset, basically they're moving that to property taxes. It never was meant for property taxes before. And I think there's other places that should be spent on. When they reduced it, it was supposed to be a cutting in the food tax and that. So they said at that time the state didn't need the money. Well, I think we found out since increase in Medicare and things like that, those funds should go back to the way they were originally intended.
So there has been significant discussion around the Future Fund and incentives for economic growth. What are your views on current incentives, and what modifications would you recommend moving forward to support growth in communities, both large and small, across the state?
As far as the Future Fund goes and distributing it or sharing it out, we elect a governor. He has his staff, just like you have your staff here. I have a staff at where I work at, and we got to trust those people to do the right things. As far as other things to incentivize local businesses to expand or draw new businesses into the state of South Dakota, I think that's the one way that we can have talented people that are going to vet these corporations and companies coming in. And I don't think there should be any kind of restrictions placed on the Future Fund for, the legislature meets once a year for 3 months. What happens when somebody wants to move to their business to the state of South Dakota in June or July? We're going to wait another 6 months to give them an answer if they're going to come in without, So I just think the future fund is a very good tool in our toolbox to use to incentivize and bring businesses and corporations to South Dakota.
So what issues for Yankton County do you want to elevate to a statewide conversation?
We got a lot of time to do this?
As long as you want, John.
Just to, as far as issues, I think the unfunded mandates that are not only Yankton County's responsibilities, but other counties in the state of South Dakota. You take juvenile detention, court-appointed attorneys, indigent care. South Dakota is the only state in the union that forces counties to pay for the court-appointed attorneys and the juvenile delinquent, taking care of them. Now, the state did 2 years ago set up a fund to assist with court-appointed attorneys, but that's only on the appeal side. So 98% of the court-appointed attorneys in Yankton County, for sure, are the county's paying for them. And that's a huge expense. I think last year was over $500,000 for Yankton County alone. So that's a huge expense. I'd like to try to figure out a way that the state can share more in stuff like that. Juvenile detention, I think the state should have more skin in the game for that, because a lot of times the kids come to Yankton County. They're not from Yankton County, but we still have to defend them and take care of them once they commit a crime. And it's the same way with adults too. They come to Yankton County, they commit their crime here, and we got to take care of, provide them with an attorney. We got to provide them with the jail space and everything else. And the safety aspect of that also. The county has a sheriff's department, city has a police department. It's all taken out of local budgets. And I think there should be a place where, the state don't have to pay for all of it, but maybe we can work out a deal so it's fair to both parties, 10%. Reimburse the state or the county or the city 10% of what their annual costs are. Just negotiate and work out programs so that we can help the counties and the cities out, the local municipalities out, instead of just say, hey, you're responsible, pay for it. Figure out how you're going to pay for it.
So are there any areas within the state budget that you would like to see significant change?
It's hard for me to say since I've not been seen the budget firsthand and went through it with a fine-tooth comb. Other than some of the things, like I said, the big three, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to do at least a cost of living increase for those three departments. They're very important. Education is one of the most important things for our kids, K through 12. The safety is obviously an important issue, and taking care of our elder people in the homes and that. And I can't think of any other thing that's more important than those three, and that's where we're cutting on the last 2 years. And that's another thing with the 0.03% sales tax that's going to sunset here next year, or actually in July. That needs to, setting it aside for property tax relief is helping a certain amount of people. It's not helping those three big ticket items. So I think that's a place that definitely needs to be looked at when the budget process comes around, and start there with the big three instead of ending with the big three.
So we're going to come back to county funding again. So
Sure.
The lack of funding for counties has been a statewide topic. Do you have any ideas on how to support counties so they can continue to implement the essential and mandated services?
I think the biggest and the most important thing is getting more revenue coming into the state other than property taxes. It's one of those things that counties have always been hogtied with property tax. That's the only revenue stream. Yeah, you can generate $5,000 in someone going into the courthouse and getting copies made or printed or stuff like that, but that still costs money. Somebody's got to do it. Paper costs and that. So generating more revenue through broadening the property tax base I see as probably the only way that we're gonna be able to sustain and move forward with county finances.
So some will say South Dakota is open for opportunity, and others say South Dakota is not a business-friendly state. How do you view South Dakota? And please provide some examples that support your views.
South Dakota is a great opportunity state. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But I can't honestly say that South Dakota is open for business, because if you take a look back at the last few legislative sessions, there's been a strong push to keep someone like Carbon Summit out of South Dakota, like Allied Energy, and even locally with NextEra and the wind farm up in the northeastern part of the county. You know, we had actually South Dakota legislators from District 18 convince the Turner County to put a moratorium on wind towers, so that, I shouldn't say they convinced them, but they were a strong push and went up there and went against the wind towers in Turner County. So therefore, the wind farm in Yankton County is probably not going to happen. And that would have generated about $300,000 to $400,000 worth of revenue directly to Yankton County. So those are the reasons why I say, and it wasn't just the Yankton County or the District 18 legislators that put a kibosh on that, but they were in the whole legislative session. 50% of the legislative session was against bringing corporations in. And when they say they don't want our tax dollars to go to corporate billionaires to incentivize them to come to South Dakota, well, I can tell you that corporate billionaires have the opportunity to go to wherever they want in the United States. And if we don't take advantage of some of them bringing their money and their funding into our state, that's a loss to our state. Like one of the legislators mentioned at one of the committee meetings that 0% of zero is still zero.
So what should South Dakota be doing to recruit more people to move here so we have an adequate workforce to support industry?
I just think we got to do exactly what Yankton Thrive is doing. We got to promote our great quality of life in South Dakota. We got to promote the opportunities that we have to draw people in here. We got a great education system, especially in Yankton County. I can't speak for other counties, but the education system in Yankton County is excellent. We got all the water, recreation that you could possibly imagine, and just by promoting it, and I think people build it and they will come.
So what are your thoughts on data centers?
Build it and they will come. As long as it doesn't affect the electricity grid and the cost to the citizens of South Dakota, we got plenty of water. Data centers, water's not an issue in my mind for data centers. They're closed loop now. The new technology is out there to where it's going to change tomorrow. But I think that if that's one way to generate more revenue to help reduce property taxes, as broadening the tax base, and it's a very quick and easy way to generate that revenue. We had Jeff Schaefer was in yesterday talking to the committees, financial and economic development committees, and he said you can't work your way out of this unless you have a huge infusion of cash. Would be a huge infusion in cash, and almost immediately, because they're going to buy the property and the property taxes are going to go up just with the building alone, whether they put something in it or not.
So do you have anything you would like to include in this interview that was not a part of a previously asked question?
Can I bring up the prison?
You can certainly talk about anything you'd like to.
I just want to hit on the topic of recidivism in our prison system. We're going to build a new prison in Sioux Falls, $600 million. And the talk in the legislation sessions the last 2 years was recidivism. We got to train and we got to rehab the people that are in the prison system. I support that 100%. The problem is in the last legislative session, there was money that was requested for that purpose, like in the tune of $2.7 million, and the legislators voted against it. So we got the prison is being built, but yet we don't want to supply the necessities to rehabilitate and train the people that are utilizing that new facility. So that's kind of something that I really am going to look at when I get to Pier through the legislative session, because we can keep putting them in there, but they're gonna keep going back until we train them and rehabilitate them. So that's the one thing that I think we didn't touch in our interview and needs to be brought up.
Well, thank you very much for adding that. And once again, the primary is June 2nd. Absentee voting starts on April 17th. John Marquardt, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.